What's up, y'all? Welcome to Cooking Clean with Chef Octavia. On this episode, we are making two variations of farmers market fried rice, one with quinoa and one with cauliflower rice. Most people only eat white rice or jasmine rice because that's all they know. So today I'm going to educate you on some alternatives to rice. So this is quinoa. This is one of the grains that we will be cooking on today. Quinoa is a superfood. It's super healthy. It's a complete protein. It's gluten-free. Another grain is brown rice. Brown rice is a good transition grain if you're trying to stop eating white rice. It is a good transition grain. However, it doesn't digest in your body as fast as, jasmine rice or white rice would, or even quinoa. So it is a good alternative though. But another one that I wanted to talk about is forbidden rice, known as black rice as well. This is one of the healthiest grains that you can eat that's on the planet. It's full of benefits. It's super natural, but the flavor is very, very earthy. It's stronger than brown rice or white rice or quinoa. So we're gonna go ahead and cook our quinoa. With rice or grains, anything you're cooking, you always want to boil your liquid first. And this is a regular steaming method. If you're doing a pilaf method or something like that, it's different. You add your liquid and pilaf is normally either in the oven or on the stove. And there's also the risotto method as well. In the risotto method, you add your liquid as you go, as you're cooking. But in this case, we're going to start with water. I'm going to turn my heat on first. We're making 1 cup of quinoa. 1 cup of dry quinoa, When it cooks up, it will turn into 2 cups. And once this comes to a boil, I'm gonna add some salt and a little bit of olive oil, and I'll talk about it when I add it. So on quinoa and most grains, it's always 2-to-1 ratio. I know I get the question a lot. How do I cook rice? How much liquid do I add? My rice comes out mushy, it comes out overcooked. Now, if you have a rice cooker, rice is perfect, grains is perfect every time, right? And you follow the directions of your rice cooker. But I'm gonna show you an easy method that you can use so you'll never fail at cooking rice, grains, whatever you're cooking at all. We're gonna start with, we're just gonna do 1 cup of quinoa. So just go 1 cup. And I already have my 2 cups of water in there, so I'm gonna wait for it to come to a boil. And then I like to always season my water before it comes to a boil. Some people don't, add anything to their grains, but I always like to start with that. Then that way I won't have to over season once it's cooked. So now that our water is boiling, I'm gonna add some salt, probably about a teaspoon. And if you want to stick to that ratio, you can. And if you want to omit the salt, you can, but it's a grain, so a grain is like really flavorless. So I add that so it's not just bland, but every element of my food I try to season as I go. So I add the salt, and then that was about a teaspoon salt. So I'll say a teaspoon of salt to 1 cup of grains. And then I'm gonna add just a little bit of olive oil to it. And then this is kind of like, I like to stir it while it's going in, just like grits, like you do grits. Like, so, your grits, you're gonna have lumpy grits. You don't want, you keep stirring it. But as I pour it in, I mix. Make sure that there's no lumps. And then I leave it alone. I'm gonna put my lid back on, and then as it comes back to a boil, I'm gonna reduce my heat. I wanna turn it to a simmer. And then I'm gonna set my timer so time doesn't get away from me, and I won't have overcooked or burnt quinoa, because I have done this a couple of times. I burnt, like I forget about it, I don't turn on, but then when I smell it, it's like, uh-oh, I overcooked it, it's gone. So I'm gonna set a timer. I'm gonna put it at 10 minutes. You'll know when it's done when all your liquid is gone. So when my liquid is gone, I'll look at it, and what I normally do is I tilt it, and if no liquid comes to the edge, it is done. But I'll check that after 10 minutes and it should be no liquid. All right, so now we're gonna get into our cauliflower rice. And this was just a whole head of cauliflower rice that I broke down. And we're going to put in a food processor. And you could break it down some more if you need to, but for the most part. And on cauliflower rice, like you could buy this frozen. Some stores even have it fresh, but y'all know how I am. I like the fresh stuff. So it's definitely better taste-wise. And there's no preservatives, you know what's in it. And then with this, you don't want to turn it all the way on because you don't want to like mush. So I'm going to pulse it. So just lightly. And you want it to where it's like, you can see that it's already starting to look like rice granules kind of, but you don't want it super like fine. I see a big piece that probably if I try to break this down, it's definitely not gonna work. I'll end up having smaller pieces. You know, this piece will probably be perfect size if I try to break that down. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna help it out just a little bit. And on this, since we're doing a fried rice, it's okay because it's a vegetable. So if I have, you know, a little one that's maybe like that size, or it's okay. And then that is your cauliflower rice. And then if you buy this frozen, of course you'll have more water content. That's why, like, when I'm doing a fried rice, I really don't like to use the frozen one. And cauliflower rice is another good alternative to rice as well. And of course it's a vegetable, it's clean, and no, you don't have as much protein in it as the quinoa does, but it definitely won't spike your blood sugar or anything like that. But if you're in the taste for like fried rice, this cauliflower would be the way to go. And of course it's gluten-free. So my 10 minutes are up and I still have liquid in here. And so what you don't want to do is lift the pot, like lift the top up, right? Because you're letting that steam out, you're interfering with the cook, right? So all I want to do is look into it, you know, and if you don't have a lid that you can see through, if you have like a, you know, a silver lid or something like that, just slightly, you know, peek in there, just enough to where you're not letting a whole bunch of steam out. So I see that it's liquid still in here, so I'm gonna put my timer for about another 5 minutes. And then we're gonna come back in 5 minutes and check it again. So my timer has ended. As I tilt, you can see it's still a little bit of liquid. So I'm gonna go about 3 more minutes. And of course your stove will vary, but I'm gonna say 18 minutes total, but I would still do it in increments so you could check it throughout. And now, as you see, the liquid is gone. I know the liquid is gone because the quinoa is not moving. So I'm gonna turn my heat off. I'm still not going to lift the lid up because the quinoa is still cooking from the steam that's in here. I'm gonna go ahead and let it rest for about probably 10-15 minutes. We are making fried rice style, so anytime you're making fried rice, it's always good to use day old or, you know, leftover quinoa or rice because it cooks up better. These are the ingredients that we are using in the farmer's market fried rice. So these are going to be our starter vegetables. These are our variations. These are our finisher vegetables. Now we're going to start on our first variation, which is our cauliflower fried rice. So I'm going to start, you always want to start with the hot pan. I'm using a cast iron just because I love cast irons and they cook really good. But you can use any skillet that you have. So I'm going to turn our heat on. Anytime you're cooking, you always want to start with the hot pan. You never want to just start adding ingredients to a cold pan, because what will happen is you'll have to wait for it to cook. And we're cooking fried rice, so you want it to cook kind of fast, but not too fast to where it burns. And I'm gonna start with my oil. I'm gonna use sesame oil and also avocado oil. Sesame oil has kind of high smoke point, but not too high. So that's why I'm adding the avocado oil as well, because it has a higher smoke point and my sesame oil won't burn. So I'm gonna go ahead and add just about half of my oil, and this is an ounce of sesame oil. Add half of that, and then I'm gonna go in like this. And then I'm gonna start with my onions. My celery. And my carrots. And then I'm gonna saute these probably for about a minute and a half. Then I'm gonna start adding my other vegetables. And as you can hear, it's sizzling. That means my pan is hot and it's getting started already. Leave those alone for a second. Now I didn't add my garlic and my green onions yet, because to cook on these, my garlic and my green onions, they will burn. So I want these to cook just a little bit till they get a little translucent, but not all the way, because this is a fresh cauliflower farmer's market rice. So I want it to have a little bit of crunch and texture. So I'm not going to kill my vegetables, in other words. And on this variation, I used the small diced carrots because this is a fresh rice. If I use the medium dice or larger dice, it would be like super crunchy. You don't want it too crunchy. You still want it cooked, but not like too crunchy. So these are around the same size as the onions. So now I'm gonna add my fresh green beans. And on this variation, all the vegetables are fresh except for the green peas. And I'll talk about the green peas when we get to that. And I'm also gonna add my bell peppers. Just gonna use like half of those because we're gonna save some of those for our quinoa. Again, just gonna saute this. And as you can see, my onions are starting to get a little color to it. So now I'm gonna add my green onions, the white part of the green onions. Now I'm gonna add my cauliflower rice. And I'm gonna use about half of this. Actually, I think this is all. And that amount, it will depend on the size of your cauliflower, but that amount was about half of the cauliflower, half a head of cauliflower. This amount right here. So that cauliflower head will go a long way. So now I'm gonna add my garlic and my ginger, my fresh ginger. And on the garlic, you can add as little or as much as you like. I like a good strong flavor, like it's an aromatic. So what an aromatic is something that has like aromas to it, but it adds flavor. So I know some people don't like the strong garlic flavor, but I do, especially in a fried rice. And so I'm also gonna add my fresh ginger. And I like a good bit of ginger, so I'm gonna add all of this. You don't have to. Again, it's all about preference. And I'm adding the garlic and the ginger now because if I added in the beginning, it would be burnt by now, and we don't want that. And then now I like to say this is when the fun part happens. I like to add just a little bit more of sesame oil for flavor wise. And if it's rice, if we were making rice, and you'll see it on the quinoa, the starch will cause it to stick to the pan. So as much oil as you have in there, the better, to where your rice will not stick to the pan, but you'll be good. So now I am going to add, this is coconut aminos. This is an alternative to soy sauce. It's vegan. And it's soy-free, of course, and it's gluten-free. So I'm gonna add this to it. But this is acting as our soy sauce. So that is about 1 ounce. And that is why I say this is where the magic happens. And this is I like to say my secret ingredient. This is seasoned rice wine vinegar. It adds just a little to it, you know, so we're gonna add that. Right. And notice I didn't add any salt to this because you always want to flavor at the end. Because the coconut aminos, it has a salt element to it. Right. So now I'm going to add, this is my fresh squash. And that's why I say this is a farmer's market fried rice. And you could just like clean your fridge out, old veggies, throw it in there. And I'm gonna give this a taste to see where I'm at on cook. And then we're going to shut our heat off. Oh yeah, that is good. So it still has a nice crunch to it. I'm gonna turn my heat off. And now I'm gonna add my frozen peas. And what I did was I let these thaw. I didn't put them in. You could put them in frozen. Still same thing, you would turn your heat off once you put them in. I let these thaw because I didn't want to add, when they thaw, they're more like a fresh pea. And I didn't want to add like a frozen pea, like a pea that was still frozen to this, because it will have that higher water content. But because it's thawed, we're good. And the reason why I turned my heat off, because I want my vegetables to stay green. And that's why I added them at the end, because you can still see that it has color to it, right? You can see every vegetable, every element, even you can still see the cauliflower rice. So now we're going to go ahead and plate. And remember, I always say your plate is the canvas. right? So now I go right in the center. You always want to keep white space. This is a one pot, and the colors and the cuts on the vegetable speaks for itself. So we're not gonna, you know, get too fancy with it. We're gonna keep it rustic because it's a farmer's market fried rice. So the white space is basically the space that you see. So I don't wanna, if I put all of my fried rice here, it just looks like you don't even see the plate. This is a nice plate, right? But allowing the white space to show, it makes your dish stand out and it be the center, like your food is the center. So we're gonna go ahead and, like I said, we're just going to go right in the center, and I'm just gonna build from there. And then the portion size on this, because it's cauliflower, it's light, it's not rice, like it's not heavy. So you could probably eat like 2 cups and be satisfied of this. So I'm gonna go probably about 1.5 cups on this plate, and then we're gonna garnish. And like I said, I'm not gonna worry about wiping this, anything like that. I like to kind of keep it rustic because it's farmer's market fried rice. And then now I'm going to garnish it with my green onions. We used the bottom of the green onions in the first part. Now I'm gonna garnish it with the top. So you get a nice little onion pop of flavor. And there you have it. This is one variation of our farmer's market fried rice. So now we're going to do our next variation, which is our quinoa farmer's market fried rice. So again, we're gonna start with the hot pan. Go ahead and turn my heat on. And I'm gonna go in with my sesame oil. And again, I'm gonna use half. And then avocado oil. Up. Now I'm going to add my onions. Next, celery. Medium diced carrots. We're gonna let that saute for about 1.5 minutes. On this one, I'm using the medium diced carrots versus the small dice, because on the quinoa, like, you don't want all your textures to be like super like soft or small, right? So this, using the medium carrot, it'll have more of a crunch to it. It'll still be cooked, but it'll be al dente, crunchy but not raw. So on the cauliflower rice one, we use fresh green beans. On this one, I'm using frozen, just to show you that you could use different variations. So, you know, of course, I would say use fresh if you can, but if you can't, you know, frozen is good too. Or maybe, like I said, you're cleaning out your fridge, cleaning out your freezer, you got green beans or some other frozen vegetables, mixed vegetables in there, you could always use it in this farmer's market fried rice. Now, of course, on the green beans, you won't have a crunch like you do it won't be crunchy like the fresh ones was, but it'll be, you know, soft. And as you can see, the color is totally different as well. The color is totally different as well. So instead of adding them now, I'm gonna add them towards the end, closer to when I add my green peas. And it's a higher water content in those as well. So as you can see, my onions are starting to get some color on it. So now I'm going to add my diced red bell peppers. And I'm also going to add the white part of the green onions. I'm gonna let that saute just for a little bit. And also on this, I am using ginger paste, which is store-bought, because I want to again show you different variations where maybe you don't have access to fresh ginger or fresh green beans, but this is your next best thing. So I'm going to go ahead and add my quinoa now before I add my garlic and ginger. Because what's going to happen is my quinoa is going to saute with my ginger and garlic, and my garlic and ginger won't burn, but they'll cook together and they'll get in the quinoa. So here is my ginger, and again you can add as much or as little as you want to, but again it's flavor. And I'm also going to add my ginger paste. I'm just going to let that saute. So I do this with fried rice as well. I'm gonna go ahead and add more oil. As you can see, my quinoa is starting to stick just a little bit. But on this one, I'm going to add egg as well. And so I'm gonna basically create like a well. I'm gonna put my avocado oil right in the center. And I'm also gonna turn my heat down because I don't want my egg to burn. And I'm gonna add just a little bit more of the sesame oil. And then I'm going to pour my egg right in here in the center. And you wanna make sure the yolk is busted. Cool. And I'm just gonna let that cook up. And again, this is where the magic happens. I'm going to pour, and this time I have tamari, which is it's still a soy sauce, but it is gluten-free. So I'm just gonna go around and pour it. And I'm not gonna add all that. And same thing, my rice wine, my seasoned rice wine vinegar. All eggs should be cooking. Cool. Yep. And that's gonna get, let's turn my heat back up. Oh, my pan's not even on. There we go. Because what you want is you want your rice to your quinoa to actually fry. So that's why you want your heat not really low and not too high, but like right in between, like at a medium heat. So now I'm going to go ahead and mix everything like that. add my green beans. So I'm gonna give it a taste. This one, I'm going to add black pepper because it balances the soy sauce out. It's not salty, but the black pepper just adds a balance to it, to the flavors. My heat is turned off, and this is the time I'm gonna add my frozen green peas. And I'm also gonna add my black pepper as well. And I did not add any salt to this at all because the tamari has salt in it, so it really doesn't need the salt. Yep, and we are good. Fold that in. And that is our farmer's market quinoa. We are ready to plate, and we're going to go right in the middle again. So same thing, this is a rustic dish, so not too fancy. And on this one, your portion size should be, I would say about 1.5 cups. Because like I said, this is a complete protein. But if you're adding chicken or shrimp or anything like that, you know, still, I would say about 1 cup on the quinoa because it's definitely heartier. And then these are our green onions, the top part. So we're just going to garnish. Just a little bit. And there you have it, farmer's market fried quinoa. All right, that wraps up another episode of Cooking Clean with Chef Octavia. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see y'all next time. Signing out.